Thank you for joining us online today. You're about to hear a message from our senior pastor, Pastor Dave Minton. If God has used this ministry to bless you in any way, please take a few moments and send us an email at info@go2ccc.org. We're always encouraged to hear how God is using this ministry to bless and inspire faith in people all over the world through what He's doing right here in the Pacific Northwest. Also, if you would like to support this ministry financially, you can do that by giving online as well. It helps us to continue to bring broadcasts like this one every single week. So now, prepare your heart to hear a message from God.
History makers choose to forgive. We're going to talk about Joseph, but it's the decision to choose to forgive. Without forgiveness, listen to this, without forgiveness, you will become less effective as a parent, as a spouse, as a boss, as a leader, as a minister, as a Christian. If you don't choose to forgive, you will start becoming less effective in life. You will become compromised and you will start having diminishing returns on your life. Now, here's why. Let me just break this down. Well, Pastor, why is that? Why would you say that? Because when you're carrying bitterness, resentment, and it comes in varying degrees, you understand it? It comes in varying degrees. But when that becomes something that grabs hold of you, it takes your focus and it starts moving you in a direction. But when you choose to forgive, it takes your focus and it moves you in a direction. Let me break it down a little bit further. Think of it like this. Every person here tonight has an emotional gas tank. You have an emotional fuel tank. You have emotional energy, and you only have a limited amount of it. Just like your gas tank on your car. It can be full, but it's still limited amount. And when you start moving in a direction, you're going to start using that energy. And you've got to decide, here's the power of this. It's your choice. Will I use my emotional energy to get well, to get whole, to get strong, to get better? Or will I use my emotional energy to get revenge, to get even, to get justice? But you cannot use that emotional energy to do both because they're moving in opposite directions. So I have to choose. Will I go for getting better, or will I go towards darkness and being consumed by this thing? So this is the decision. This is the decision. I will greet each day with a forgiving spirit. So the decision says, I will greet each day with a forgiving spirit. Now some people, and it's not just certain people, some people say, like, I'm a forgiving person. I have the power of forgiveness. Yes, you do. But we walk around and we think, okay, we treat it like some power broker that we are, like royalty. It's like we decide who gets it based on merits. If you grovel, if you show enough remorse, I will knight you. You are forgiven, my child. You may now depart from my presence. And you act like it's something you get to manage. And to a degree it is, but it's not for certain few. To have a giving spirit is for all. It's for all. Listen to the backdrop of this and let's look at Joseph for just a moment. And in Genesis, and it's you should read this story of Joseph. We don't have time to go into all the details of the life of Joseph. But this is at the end of his life. Has been restored to his brothers, who, by the way, had sold him into slavery. He had went to Potiphar's house. He was lied about at Potiphar's house, ended up in prison and was forgotten about in prison, and finally ended up before Pharaoh and became very successful in the land. In Genesis 50, it says, Joseph said to him, he's talking to his brothers now, do not be afraid, for I am in the place of God. When someone has hurt you emotionally, don't you wish you were in the place of God? Think about it. You know, when someone's just invading your mind and frustrating you, don't you just want to pull them out like a voodoo doll and just do all kind of interesting things just to see them? Joseph is saying, I can do anything to you I want to right now. I've got so much power. I can get my justice. I can get my vengeance. I can have you tied to chariots and pulled apart limb by limb. I have the power to do what I choose to do. But as for you, you meant evil against me. You meant evil against me. But God meant it for good. In order, what's this? We're talking about being history makers. In order to bring about, as it is this day, to save many people's lives. Can I encourage you? Can I encourage you to think like Joseph think? Anytime I have an offense I got to deal with, I got to remind myself, David, this isn't about you. This is about your destiny. And if you get caught up in this offense, you compromise your destiny. This offense may very well be sent by the enemy just to rob me of what God's called me to be and what God's called me to accomplish in my life. And so I choose to greet this day with a forgiving spirit so that I do not compromise my destiny. Yes, you may or may not be aware that what you have cast is a bait trap to me, and you may have meant it for evil out of your own hurt, pain, frustration. But I understand God is about to do something good. Do you hear what he's saying? Joseph's choosing to have a forgiving spirit says, I refuse to be a victim full of resentment in this life. The other part of his choice was when you choose to have a forgiving spirit, say, I choose to greet this day with a forgiving spirit, allows God's spirit to be with you. Listen what Genesis 39, I believe it is. In Genesis 39 in verse 20. He was there in the prison. Remember, this is backing up a little bit. He was thrown into prison because Potiphar's wife had lied about him. But the Lord was with Joseph. The Lord was with Joseph in prison and showed him mercy. And watch this. And he gave him favor in sight of the keeper of the prison. See, when you choose not to be bitter in life, when you choose not to be filled with resentment, when you choose not to hold on to that stuff, you get favor with the prison gatekeeper. Do you understand? The gatekeeper that holds people in bondage by bitterness says, I can't hold you. You're in my prison, but you've got God with you. You've got favor with you. The gate is open to you. And some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. There have been times you've been put in that cell. You've been put in that place. And you say, no, I'm not staying here. I've got God with me. I choose to forgive. And the prison gatekeeper says, the gate is open. If you want to walk out, you can walk out. Others, they're not walking out. But you can walk out. You've got favor with me. You don't have to stay here. You can walk out of this thing. When you choose to forgive, you don't have to stay. You don't have to stay in prison. You can walk out of those places. The other thing is God used him to bring, his spirit of forgiveness was used to bring restoration to his family. Let me just ask you a question. Have you ever been, see, this decision to forgive really deals with the hidden wounds in our life. And have you ever broke a bone? You ever broken a bone? Anybody ever have stitches? Anybody ever more than 30 stitches? More than 30? You have more than 30? Wow, that's a lot of stitches, man. Wow. Anybody car accident where you got hurt? A couple of you, yeah. Anybody been knifed, stuck with a knife? Yikes. Anybody been shot? Shot? Did you shoot yourself? No. 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 Anybody? I mean, we got so many soldiers in our church. I don't know if anybody been shot, wounded in war, wounded in battle. Do you understand? So we get hurt in life. We get physically hurt in life. And the thing is, we often remember an incident, but we don't remember the physical pain. But emotional pain, the wound of an emotional pain, they don't heal as well. And it ain't a scar, it's fresh, tender, and festering. Do you remember the phrase you used to hear in school? Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me. Well, that's a lie. Because you already been healed of the sticks and stones. But some of us, we're still carrying around the wounds of the words mean people said to you in school. You're still carrying the wounds of a coworker that was cruel to you on the job. You're still carrying around the wounds of a so-called thought was a friend. You're still carrying around the wounds of a comment that was made about you because of the color of your skin or the color of your hair or the tattoos on your body or whether you were a male or female. You heard comments by people around you that used those words to be prejudiced against you. You still remember those words. They're still tender to you. But the wounds that hurt us the deepest come from our family. They come from our spouses. They come from our ex-spouses. They come from our parents. And they can come from our children as they grow up and move towards selfishness versus relationship. And so the wounds that hurt the deepest are not physical, they're emotional. And the decision to forgive is to say, today, I set the path for my life to get better. Today, I set the path for my life to put my emotional energy in becoming better, stronger, whole, healed again. No longer will I let what someone did to me, and catch this, no longer will I let what someone did to me in my past occupy my mind with unproductive thinking. I have history to make. Did you catch that? There are people who are occupying space in our minds and in our thoughts, who are taking our energy, taking our creativity, taking our problem-solving ability, taking our leadership, taking our compassion, taking us from making history because of something they have done. And you may be waiting for them to come and apologize. They may never come and apologize. Be nice if they do. Chances are they probably never will. And if you wait for that, then your life is in diminishing return while you wait for something that may never come to you. Don't give them that power over your destiny. Make the decision to step into this thing called forgiveness. Is this making any sense? See, in our world today, we have a lot of courses on anger management. Right? Don't raise your hand. Anybody here been to anger management courses? Don't raise your hands. Usually they're court appointed. See, now we're going someplace with that. You're court appointed because you're out of control and you can't get yourself in control. And so we're trying to get you back under control. So we send you to anger management courses, or your boss sends you to anger management courses. And we're just trying to get you. Now can we pause with me for a minute? Just pause. Think of the phrase anger management. Anger management. Do you understand? To manage something means to keep it close to you. Keep an eye on it. Keep it around. Do you understand? If you're managing something, it's with you right there. I don't want to. Why would I want to manage that? I don't want to manage it. I want to get rid of it. Think of it. You're walking around saying, I'm in a rage half the time. I'm bitter, I'm frustrated, I'm mad, I'm on pins and needles. I'm nearly out of control. I can't contain myself. I'm just trying to manage my anger. Oh, why don't you just forgive and go for anger resolution? I don't want to manage it. I want to get rid of it. It's not as good as brilliant. Some of you need to write that down. It's anger resolution. Because see, the reason the courts want you to do anger management because they realize, well, you're obviously trying to do life without God. God says go for anger resolution because I will write a new theme in your heart and give you a new life. Am I helping anybody? See, the problem with hanging on to grudges. See, it's not anger, it's just a grudge. I just got a grudge. It's not resentment, it's not bitterness, it's a grudge. I got a grudge. I got a grudge. People like holding grudges. It's like, I'm going to heal my grudge. I'm going to rock it like it's my little baby. I'm going to nurse it, and I'm going to rehearse it. And you know, a funny thing happens when you nurse things. They grow. And the problem with hanging on to grudges, they grow. Listen to what Matthew chapter 5 says. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with his brother or sister will be in subject of judgment. Please catch this. Judgment means the physical judgment that comes on our body when we're full of bitterness and resentment. You ever notice the stress that comes on your body when you're eat up with bitterness and resentment? Your body starts breaking down. But watch how it grows here. Anyone who says to their brother or sister, Reka, now you're expressing it. Now you're becoming insulting. Now you're expressing your anger. Will be answerable to the courts. How many know when you can't get yourself under control, you step into the legal system? Oh, please catch this. The legal system is for people who can't follow God's moral code in their heart. The whole legal system is for people who are out of control. Hello. Kumbaya, my Lord. Kumbaya. Some of you spend a lot of time in the legal system because God can't reach your heart. God reach your heart. I haven't had to get a lawyer in a long time, or a judge in a long time, or a prosecutor in a long time. But and anyone who says fool, you let this thing grow, will be in danger of your relationship spiritually with God. Physically, legally, and spiritually. The problem with grudges, they get heavy and they turn on you. That grudge, that anger turns into resentment, turns into contempt, turns into bitterness, and the next thing you know, you or I am poisoned by the grudge we have been carrying. Now my future is compromised, and so are my relationships. All because I chose not to have a forgiving spirit and greet each day with a spirit giving. It was just a little grudge. I just nursed it. I just coddled it. But look what it turned into. It's sort of like having a baby lion for a cat. Come on, somebody. See, you have the power. And John, this is what Jesus said to his disciples. He says, if you forgive anyone's sins, their sins will be forgiven. If you do not forgive them, they will not be forgiven. Do you hear that? You hear what God's saying there? That is incredibly powerful. What did Joseph say? I'm in the place of judge. If I don't practice this principle of forgiving spirit, we're just going to hang on to a whole bunch of stuff. We're going to hang on to a whole bunch of stuff that's going to get really heavy in life. And no longer will my life be light and I can keep climbing. See, if you don't keep lightening the load, you can't keep climbing in life. And some people quit climbing in life because their load just gets too heavy. They've just got so many grudges they're hanging on to, so many offenses they're hanging on to, so many hurts they're hanging on to. And again, I am not justifying any abuser, any violator. I'm not justifying any of that. We're not talking about them. We're talking about our choice to make history by choosing to forgive. Does this help you? Say, why should I forgive? I'm going to go through some things really quick. You're going to have to write down notes because I'm going to go through these really quick. Why should I forgive? Number one, it's the ultimate gift I give myself. Now think about this. We forgive not because somebody deserves it, but because I like myself. Listen to this phrase very carefully. I must release my offender to set myself free. Did you hear what I just said? I must release my offender to set myself free. It is the ultimate gift I give to myself. Now, watch this. Now, you know this more than most people. You attend church. You worship God. You read the Word. You go to small groups. You serve. And you practice it all the time. You practice it all the time. And so you may not be where you want to be with this subject matter, but trust me, you are a million miles ahead of most other people in life. And how many of you know what I'm talking about? There are times you've been stuck and you set yourself free because you chose to forgive, because you were under the ministry of the Word, like a time like this. And all of a sudden it brought a breakthrough in your life. But there's a lot of other people that don't know this decision. There's a lot of other people who are stuck in life. And sometimes we, through the power of an apology, can set somebody else free. You know, like, we've already forgiven them. We've already moved on. But all of a sudden we're taking inventory. You know, I think I hurt that person's feelings. I think I disappointed that person. I think I let them down. Oh, I hope they forgive me because I've already forgiven them what they did for me 3 weeks before that. You're down the road. Or you say, wait a minute. Maybe they don't know what I know. Hey, it's come to my attention that maybe you were hurt by something I said or something that I did. I just want to ask if you could forgive me because I'm really sorry. Do you realize that apology can cause them to forgive you and set them free? Think about it. How many of you feel right now, if they would just apologize, I could go on? But that apology may never come. So you're going to forgive anyway because you're going to greet each day with a forgiving spirit and you're going to set yourself free. But there's a whole bunch of other people in the world that don't know that. Are you catching that? That is so powerful. Some of you could say that to your children. You could say it to your spouse. You could say it to your parents. You could say it to people you work with. And you could set yourself free. But you could also give them the gift of freedom by the power of an apology, which would invite them. You always invite them. Could you forgive me? Would you forgive me? Can you find it in your heart to forgive me? Now you've set them free. You're helping them get free. Let me give you a couple others real quickly. Number two, because God has forgiven me. We don't forgive because they deserve it. We give because of grace. Now some say, Pastor, you don't know what they did to me. I don't. But I got another question for you. But do you know what unforgiveness will do to you? I don't know what they did to you. But do you know what unforgiveness will do to you? Number three. Because I'm going to need forgiveness again myself real soon. Yes, we forgive others. And now, I'm not got time to go through all the scriptures, so you can always go to the website. You can always use your smartphone, get the app, use a QR code, download, because there's so many scriptures in here, but I am like really out of time. But I want to go through these points real quickly with you. Yes, we forgive others. But you know what? Sometimes we need to forgive ourselves. Because here's where a lot of people are stuck. Probably no one has lied to you more than. No one has broken their promise to you more than. And no one has betrayed you more than. And no one has let you down more than. So maybe I need to forgive myself. I will read this scripture. Mark 11. But if you do not forgive, remember we have the power of forgiveness, neither will your Father in heaven forgive your trespasses. And some of us were walking around, and God is saying, I want to set you free, but you're holding on to unforgiveness toward yourself. I can't set you free because you're holding on to unforgiveness toward yourself. Yes, we do it for other people, but we also do it for ourselves. Number 4, because unforgiveness doesn't work, right? We know that. See, the reason it doesn't work, it poisons me and it poisons the other people around me. And number 5, because bitterness and resentment can be passed on generationally. Someone who didn't use their emotional energy to get emotionally well, strong, whole, and healed, a parent, in essence, turned around and spewed their resentment and their bitterness and their anger and their pain onto you. And now you are paying it forward in life because it is passed on generationally. And sometimes we just need to say, you know what? It's time to stop the insanity. It's going to stop. I'm going to be a history maker in my family, in my generation. No longer will I harbor a root of resentment and bitterness. It stops now. It stops in my life. It stops in my generation. No longer will a spirit of unforgiveness go through our family, but a spirit of grace and forgiveness will go through our family. In Matthew, there's a scripture of, woe to those who offend a little one, for it would be better if a millstone were put around their neck and for them to be cast into the sea. You ever read that verse? It's really scary to offend a little one. But let me ask you this question. Why would God use such strong language to warn against offending little ones? Because little ones grow up. And where do offensive people come from? Little people who were offended. And we don't see ourselves as being offensive. We just see ourselves as being hurt. We don't see ourselves as being offended. We just see life as not fair. We're just trying to get right even. And we don't see the damage that we are often doing because we were the little one that got hurt and we grew up to become the big one who hurts. If you go to a prison, if you go to a juvenile detention center, you can be so angry you want to strangle them to death when you hear what they did. And then you could be so broken and fall on your face in great anguish when you hear what happened to them. They're both the same person. How horrible what happened to you. How horrible what you're doing. Little people grow up to be offended people who become offensive people. We stop it because we're history makers. Now, how do I do it? You know me, I like to get practical. We're going to pray. Number 1, declare, I will greet each new day with a forgiving spirit. You put forgiveness on, just like you went to the closet and picked out some clothes and put on tonight. You can go to the closet and put on forgiveness, put on tender mercies, put on long suffering. You put it on. It is a decision. It's not an emotion. It's a decision. Right. Everybody say, it's a decision. Because if I wait for the emotion to come, it ain't coming. Ask God to help you release it in prayer. Sometimes those wounds are so deep, but we got to say, God, please help me with this. Because how many know that Jesus went to you ever see the Passion of Christ? It's a graphic movie about the pain that went on his head or in his hands. The face was abused. His back was beaten, in his feet, in his side. But the greatest pain he had was not the physical pain. It was the emotional pain of the rejection and the betrayal and becoming sin for mankind. You know what he's saying? He goes, I get it. Because sometimes, well, God, where were you when they were doing this to me? He goes, I know. I was there. Because not only did they do it to you, they did it to me. And we think he wasn't there. We think he didn't care. But he said, no, I paid for that sin. And I'm here and I'll help you get free. And so we got to pray it out sometimes. You got to talk it out with God sometimes. Number 3, turn your pain into something good. Romans says, do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. You can't nurse it. You can't rehearse it if you want to reverse it. Listen, the quality of your life will often be determined by the quality of the questions you ask. Why did they do this to me? Versus, what will I do about it? Why are they always picking on me? Who can I forgive? How much is this going to cost? How much benefit will I get out of it? The quality of your life will be determined by the questions you ask. Because a lot of us are asking poor questions, so the answers don't feed our soul. Are you catching this? Who am I blaming for my unhappiness? Today, I choose to forgive them. And it's so important that if you're struggling with bitterness, you say, okay, I'm putting that down. I'm making the decision. You might still be wrestling, but now I'm going to put my energy, my emotional energy into doing something good. And finally, the last one. Get into a small group. You need to get around other believers. Psychologists have told us for years that our self-esteem and our self-worth comes from the people who are the most important to us and what we think about what those people think about us. Did you catch that? So our self-esteem will come from a parent. Our self-esteem will come from a spouse. Our self-esteem will come from somebody else. Can I encourage you to let the most important person in your life become Christ and find out what he thinks about you? And then let Christ's family become important to you, because you remember that Jesus, even when his birth family showed up to try to talk him out of his destiny, and they were knocking at the door and he's in a small group, he says, who is my family? My family's right here. Now later his family came in alignment with his mission in life. But some of us, we compromise our destiny because we look for what the wrong people think of us. And you know, God wants his family to be a place of support, a place of love, a place of encouragement, a place of believing in you, a place of shared values, a place of moving in the same direction. Come on, did you learn anything tonight?